Hello everyone and welcome to this quick update on the current situation with EB-5 and the Trump Gold Card. It is Wednesday the 9th of April and there has been very little information forthcoming from the Trump administration in the last few weeks on the Gold Card and the implications for EB-5. So there have been a few snippets that we've been able to gather from different sources. And any information at this point, I think, is valuable because people are very anxious and concerned about what is going to happen with EB-5 if they've already submitted an application or if they're thinking of doing one. So this update is here to try and answer some of those outstanding questions for us. This is what we are going to talk about and try and address. First of all, we'll do a quick update on the Gold Card and EB-5 in general. We will answer or try to answer the question whether the $5 million for the Gold Card is going to be an investment or a donation, as that was not really clear before. Will the Gold Card allow just the single applicant, or will it include the family of that applicant as well? When does the Gold Card launch is, of course, a big question, which we'll try and cover off. What are the implications for EB-5? Of course, this is the most important point. And we'll just cap off with looking quickly at the $400,000 EB-5 investor loan, which is available and optional and has been very popular for our clients. So we'll just cover that briefly at the end as well. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so just by way of a quick recap, the Trump Gold Card was announced on February 24th. This is an article from CNN on February 25th, just writing up about that. And the initial announcement was that the EB-5 visa was going to be scrapped completely. They wanted to get rid of it completely and replace it with the Trump Gold Card, which would cost $5 million. Now, details at the time were very, very thin on the ground. And even since then, they've been very thin from the administration. So we've really been trying to piece together some bits of information from comments and interviews that have taken place since then. This guy standing next to Trump is Howard Lutnick. He's the Commerce Secretary. So he is the guy who is responsible for implementing the Trump Gold Card. And he had a very interesting interview on the All In podcast on March the 20th. And there was some revealing information from that interview which helps to answer some of the outstanding questions. So let's have a listen in to that.
Speaking of potentially great ideas, can you tell us about the Trump card?
Sure. So
whose idea was that? And how did that come about?
John Paulson had a call with Donald Trump and was talking to Donald Trump and was kicking around the idea of we should sell, right? Why do we give away visas? We should sell them. And they're talking.
Okay, so let's pause it there. That's the first bit of crucial information where Howard Lutnick says they were talking with the hedge fund billionaire John Paulson, and they said, well, why do we give away visas? Why don't we just sell them? So that clearly indicates that the $5 million fee for the Trump Gold Card is not going to be an investment like EB-5. It's actually going to be more like a donation, like some of the Caribbean countries, for example. So the $5 million will not come back to the applicant as it would with EB-5 after about between 3 and 5 years. It will go into the government, it won't come back out, and it sounds very much like Trump is aiming to use this money to pay down some of the US government debt. That's what he said about this sort of in passing. So that is a key bit of information, and it's one of the questions which wasn't 100% clear when they officially announced the Trump Gold Card a few weeks ago.
Of course, about 2 weeks from today, it goes out. Okay, Elon's building me the software right now.
Yeah.
Right? And then out it goes. And by the way, yesterday I sold 1,000.
Okay, now this is really big information. So first of all, they are saying here, or Howard Lutnick is saying here, that the Trump Gold Card should have been issued 2 weeks after this interview. Now, as of the date of this recording today, the 2 weeks has come and gone, so they are behind on that schedule. But the important point to note here is that clearly the Trump administration is pressing ahead with the gold card. There is no doubt about that. It's just now a matter of when it's going to be kind of officially released, although Howard Lutnick does here say that he's already sold 1,000 of them already the day before this interview, which was on March the 20th. Now, at the same time, though, he says that the software, the systems haven't yet been built for the gold card to be administered. So it does immediately raise the question, how on earth did he manage to sell 1,000 of these cards without having the software and the system with which to do it? It sounds very much to me like this is a major exaggeration at best, and he doesn't really offer any evidence to back this up. So I think we have to take this with a pinch of salt, but it does show the willingness and the eagerness that the administration have to get this program out fast.
Fantastic. Do you want to tell people just the rough?
What are the
rough
terms?
breakdown?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're a U.S. citizen, you pay global tax.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not going to bring in outsiders going to come in to pay global tax. So if you have a green card, which used to be a green card, now gold card, you're a permanent resident of America. You can be a citizen, but you don't have to be. And none of them are going to choose to be. What they're going to do is they're going to have the right to be in America. They pay $5 million, and they have the right to be in America. They have the right to be in America.
Permanent residency. Yeah.
As long as they're good people.
And they're vetted.
And they're vetted, and they can't break the law. We can always take it away if they're like evil or mean or bad or something. Not mean, but if they do something horrible, you can take it away, right?
Yeah, quite interesting to note that despite this being a permanent residency card, there are some pretty loosely undefined conditions whereby they might take it away from you, if you're mean or bad. And that's not really the sort of cast iron guarantee that I think people who are handing $5 million over would be looking for, because, what's the definition of being bad? He doesn't really specify that. So that's a bit of a question mark there, and perhaps something that would put off some people, I think, from handing over $5 million if the Trump gold card can just be revoked if you do something which the administration doesn't like.
Right, but the idea is, if I was not American, and I lived in any other country, I would buy 6. One for me, one for my wife and my 4 kids, because God forbid something happens.
Wow. Well, this is very important that the Trump gold card, apparently, according to Howard Lutnick here, would actually only be valid for the single individual who is applying. It would not include spouse or children. So he's saying here, if he wasn't American, he would need 6 of them, because he'd need one for him, one for his wife, and one for each of his 4 children, which would mean he would be spending $30 million on the gold cards for him and his whole family. This is a huge difference between the EB-5 and the Trump gold card, because of course the EB-5 application requires one single investment but can include the entire immediate family of that applicant. So his or her spouse and any children that they have up until the age of 21, if they're in full-time education, they can all be included on the same application. So this is a huge difference, and kind of surprising, because you would imagine this would be a big negative for any person who's looking to bring over their family, because in Howard Lutnick's case, it not only would be $5 million for you, but it's actually $30 million for the whole family.
So you have the most productive people in the world going to spend time here. They're going to have a family office. They're going to hire some people.
And you're not going to tax their external worldwide income.
I only tax the money they make in America, which is what we do now.
Yeah.
But they're global.
Right, so this is a very big point, and from everything I've heard so far, this is really the only big benefit of the gold card, and that is that any wealthy people going to the US and doing whatever they do there, whether that's starting a business or otherwise, would only be taxed on the money they generate in the US. They would not be subject to worldwide taxation as every other US citizen would be. So that is clearly a potential benefit or attraction of the gold card, because if you're a wealthy individual and you don't live in the US, or you're not from the US, clearly the idea of worldwide taxation to the US authorities probably wouldn't appeal to you. As Lutnick says here, there's very few of these gold card holders that will choose to become citizens because they don't want the worldwide taxation. So this is definitely a potential benefit here.
Global income stays out.
And they pay $5 million. And how many people do you think there are that could qualify in the world?
There are 37 million people in the world who are capable of buying the card. In case you were wondering.
37 million. That's a lot more than ChatGPT told me.
Who are capable of buying it.
Who are capable of buying it.
Now, I'm not saying they will, but they're capable of buying.
How many do you think you'll sell?
The president thinks we can sell 1 million.
You'll notice the question specifically was, how many do you think? And Lutnick decides to kind of dodge that a little bit and says, well, the president thinks we'll sell 1 million. So he didn't say he thinks we'll sell 1 million. So maybe he doesn't agree with that figure from Trump. But nonetheless, the key takeaway here is that they obviously are pushing ahead with this and they really want to push it as hard as they can. How many they will actually sell, of course, is yet to be seen. 1 million is probably a very, very high figure, but Trump has a tendency to talk in extremes, so we probably shouldn't be surprised.
So $5 trillion.
I think 1 million is reasonable. I mean, look, as an outsider who came in and got his green card and then got his citizenship and now pay global tax every which way known to man, if this were available 15 years ago after the Facebook IPO, that's what I would have done. It would have been much better.
So, yeah, Chamath here says he thinks maybe they will do 1 million, but his co-host here did immediately laugh at that suggestion, so obviously he disagrees. But if they do, then they would raise $5 trillion, and that is $5 trillion which can, in theory, be used to pay down some of the $36 trillion of debt which the US government currently has. So that was the useful bits of information from the Howard Lutnick interview on the All In podcast, but there are obviously still a bunch of questions relating to EB-5, but we have started to see headlines like this coming out saying, rich Indians scramble to apply for EB-5 visa. This is from the Economic Times out of India. And these guys were saying down here that we are experiencing a surge in interest for the EB-5 visa petition. Our office is inundated with inquiries, and many clients are eager to file their I-526E petitions promptly to secure their EB-5 application before any potential changes to the current law. And this is something that we can back up as well. We have experienced a big uptick in inquiries from our clients, and a lot of people are scrambling to get this done as quickly as possible because everything in the law suggests from a precedent perspective that if your petition goes in, you will be allowed to carry that on and you will be grandfathered through to completion, even if the law changes. So that is important to bear in mind. But the only other bit of information we had came from a very brief interview that Trump had on Air Force One a couple of days ago, and that just gave us a little bit more of a look under the bonnet. So let's take a look at what he said there.
$5 million. For $5 million, this could be yours. That was the first of the cards. See that? You know what that card is?
Gold card.
It's the gold card. The Trump card, gold card.
Who's the first buyer?
Me.
Who's the second?
I don't know, but I'm the first buyer.
So the reporter there says, who's the first buyer? And Trump says, me, which is a bit of a strange answer, but then she follows up with, well, who's the second buyer? And he says, I don't know. So this is a clear contradiction of what Howard Lutnick just said in the earlier clip, which was about 2 weeks before this one. This particular one was 2 or 3 days ago. And you would imagine if Howard Lutnick had actually sold 1,000 gold cards in one day and raised $5 billion doing so, that's the type of thing that Trump would be shouting from the rooftops to the reporters and to the press to really help to promote the gold card scheme and to look good in terms of raising the money and making it look like a success. So I think we can safely assume that 1,000 card claim by Lutnick is not necessarily the case, not necessarily true. But the key takeaway point here is that very clearly the gold card is going through and the EB-5 is under threat. The only question remains really is when and how will the Trump administration try and get rid of EB-5, as they've already said they wanted to do. And it very much looks like the way they will have to do that is through new legislation. Once they try and propose new legislation, that could pass within a couple of weeks. And that's how fast legislation can go through. And so there is really now a very small window of opportunity where EB-5 prospective investors have the chance to file their petitions and be safe and get into the system ahead of any potential legal change. Because if the Trump administration does pass new legislation, the EB-5 program will cease to exist, and it looks like for the near future then there'll be no way back in for that program. So we would encourage anyone who's thinking about proceeding with their EB-5 petition to really speed that up as quickly as they can to try and get in before this potential rule change. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this quick update. Just a reminder that we do have availability still on the EB-5 investor loans, whereby the $400,000 loan can be taken to part pay the $800,000 investment required for the EB-5 investor. So if anyone is interested in learning more about the EB-5 investor loans for $400,000, feel free to get in touch. You could book a meeting by directly scanning my QR code shown in the bottom left here. If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the section below this video, and I will get back to anyone who drops a comment in there. We will do another update if there is any information forthcoming from the Trump administration. This is obviously something which is a topical area, and the information's coming out every few days. So if there's something relevant, we'll do another quick update on that. But feel free to get in touch. If you found this video useful and you liked it, please press the like and subscribe button below, or feel free to share. But until next, thanks for watching.